concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, guys? I'm Joshua Bardwell. You know what time it is. It's time. It's Monday. It's 8 p.m. And it's time to do some live stream. Not sure. In the chat says he's starting to like this song. That's just keep listening. You're gonna like it, and then you're gonna have a positive association. You're gonna know when you hear that song, all your problems are about to get solved. All your quadcopter prods. Some of them. I'm not perfect, but I want to get something out of the way right here early in the stream. Okay. Oh, crap. Bobby Films. The Gem Fan giveaway. I forgot about the Gem Fan giveaway. People were like, hey, did you do the giveaway? And I'm like, I did all the giveaways. Calm down. Oh, shit. Bobby, thank you for the reminder. I forgot the Gem Fan giveaway. Dude, my bad. Okay. Do I look tired? It's just me, Moose. I am a little tired, actually. You are not wrong about that. I had a weird night. I was up in the middle of the night. So if I do look a little tired, that's why. But But, you know, you got to do the live stream. You got to do the live stream. Did I bring enough for everybody, Brady Lots? Catch it. Did you catch it? 507RC, Nightbot is back, but Nightbot is Nightbot actually a mod? I think Nightbot has no power. I turned off all the auto mods of Nightbot. Nightbot's only job is to repeat a message every now and then. Matt Miller, what do I use that makes my live streams look so damn good? The camera is a Lumix G85. It's a pretty decent little camera. Drew Camden actually recommended it to me. He got me into the Lumix ecosystem. Where's my mouse? Drew Camden recommended this is a Lumix G85. See, look, purchased 2 times. You can see I'm not lying. I have purchased 2 of the Lumix G85 before, and the lights are. Oh, which one is it? Newer LED, but it's not the one with the barn doors. Yeah, this one, basically. This is the lights. Oh, that's a really good price. A 3-pack for $129. That is a hell of a good price, actually. They're usually like $80 a piece. That's a really good price. Anyway, that's what I'm using. Do you use an encoder? I have a capture card, an HDMI capture card, and OBS. Yeah. Do I have a Tango 2, Billy Hackett? I do. That's it. I answered your question. Oh, let's see here. License to Drive says, all right, all right, all right. We got that McConaughey vibe in the house. I got that McConaughey vibe because I am tired. Yeah. Post affiliate links, Marcelina Romero. So, all right, you know what? I mean, like, I'm not too proud. There's the lights. You want to buy the camera? Definitely. The camera is like $900. Although I don't know if you guys heard this, but Amazon cut their affiliates back like 50%. So if you would have gotten 8%, you get like 4%. So less than before. Anyway. Jimmy Nature, are the iNav vids ready yet? I've got my Tyro 119 build series out. You guys may have seen that. And I finished the Betaflight setup. I'm going to be working on the iNav videos all this week with the hope of... See, normally what happens is I rush, I get one video done, I get that video out, and then like people are like, where's the rest of them? So this time, I actually have all the videos for this week except one already shot. And I'm going to be working on the iNav videos all this week, and then hopefully going to be releasing them next week, but you won't have to wait forever and ever and ever. David Spawn wants to know if I'll be doing iNav tuning. This is my first iNav build, so I'm just going to try to like get iNav running, and we'll see how that goes. Welcome to the stream, guys. This is how it goes. Fifi Holm asks, do you give out drones? And Fifi, I do a giveaway every month. I do one giveaway on my Patreon every month of basically all the stuff that I've gotten for review or otherwise am not using. And I do a giveaway on my YouTube channel of a new product. And I do that at the beginning of every month, usually in the first week of the month. So I do give them out, but I give them out in predetermined ways. So here's what we got going on, guys, and you kind of got the taste of it. By the way, if you're new here, if it's your first stream, first of all, thank you for coming out. Welcome. I hear that a lot of new people are getting into FPV because they're stuck in their freaking house and they just don't have anything else to do. So, welcome if you're here. This is what we got going on. Up here in the right. Up here in the upper right, this is you guys in the chat. I'll be taking your questions, and that's what I've been doing. Shooting for 2,000 viewers tonight, asks Cement Kid. Cement Kid is referencing in the last stream I did on, I guess it was last Sunday, not yesterday, but last Sunday. We got like 1,500 viewers, and I did a giveaway. I was so proud. And then it turned out that those viewers were like bots or something. It went up to 1,500, it went right back down. And I was like, yeah, but I still did the giveaway. If you would like to make sure I get to your question, because these questions come by. See, look, here goes Logan Unknown. Is it worth the hassle to switch over to F port, or should I just stick with S-Bus? But I might have missed that question. Logan, if you don't mind flashing your, like if you have an RXSR, it's super easy to flash your RXSR if you have the little plug that came with it. You just plug it into the bottom of your radio and flash it. If you are not afraid to flash your receiver, then it's not that big of a deal to get F-port working. On the other hand, though, if it's an F4 board that you're asking about, the F4 board, Christopher Yachts is asking about the F4. The F4 boards don't have bidirectional inverters, and so a lot of times you do have to do the uninvert hack on the receiver in order to get F-port working on an F4 board. So that's kind of annoying. But is it worth the hassle? If I had an F7, I would really, that's more worth it. The other thing, though, is F7s usually have so many UARTs, you kind of don't need the extra UART anyway. F-port does have other advantages, and in case people are going, well, F-port, what is he talking about? F-port is, so FreeSky receivers, they do S-bus control and SmartPort telemetry, but F-port is a protocol that combines control and telemetry on one wire. So you free up one UART, but in addition to that, F-port has lower latency, and it does RSSI without any additional weirdness. So F-port is nice. If I had an RXSR and a FreeSky radio, I mean, it's pretty easy to flash those. On the other hand, if you have like an XM Plus, it's a little harder to flash because it doesn't have a plug. So, I have S-Bus running on all my quads because I just kind of can't be bothered. I'm just like, just do it. There's a guy on my Discord, and by the way, that's what's over here. Check it out. These beautiful people over here, Alep, Doghouse, Empty My Mag on You, Chubbs McGrubs, Pretty Fly for a White Guy FPV, Nate Man, Rafiki, Alep, Anders, OCD, all these lovely people over here. Bags FPV, one of my moderators. These guys are on my Discord server. They are my patrons. If you want to join them on the Discord server, you can become a patron. There's a link in the video description down below. For as little as $2 a month, you can go hang out with these beautiful people and ask questions on the disc that I then just talk over and ignore. I don't know why you do it. There's a guy over on my Discord server who is a big fan of F-port. He's an F-port evangelist. F-port does have some advantages, that's true. 661 FPV reminds us that F-port gives RSSI back to the radio, even if you're not running Betaflight telemetry. That is true. That's one of I think single wire is nice. Getting RSSI is nice. Lower latency is nice. F-port is nice. It's just, you got to jump through a couple hoops to make it work. But once you get it in your workflow, it's not a big deal. So, those kind of questions go by. I'm still doing my intro, okay? We're 9 minutes in. I still haven't finished my intro. That's how it is. I keep getting interrupted by your questions. If you want to make sure that I get your question, hit the $sign right down here. There's not a $sign on my screen because I popped chat out, but hit the $sign right down here. You'll get a super chat called out, and I will get to it eventually. But I will get to it. Probably. Almost certainly. Hero Psycho, this is the guy I was talking about. He says, how can I be an F-port evangelist if I run Crossfire on almost everything? Well, that's the thing, my friend. Once you start running Crossfire, you're just like, yeah, Crossfire's pretty good. Maybe I don't care about FreeSky anymore. Yeah. Anyway. Jeremy F., I've answered like 5 questions through the process of my intro. You've missed so much. Crossfire, where it's at, though. What are we drinking today? Nate Man, the good old regular. Parents, cover your children's ears. Iced tea. No, this is Knob Creek bourbon, and this is, oh man, can I tell you guys again? The SodaStream carbonation drink, right? They don't sponsor my streams, but if they wanted to, I would totally let them because I love SodaStream. I love making my own carbonated drinks at home. It sounds like I'm doing a commercial, doesn't it? But I'm just a fan of SodaStream. They don't pay. I wish they did pay me money, but they don't. But here's the problem with SodaStream. Check this out. If you have a SodaStream, you know the problem. You run out of CO2, and now you got an empty CO2 canister, and now what? You got to take it into the store, and you got to exchange it, right? But the problem is that you go to the grocery store and you're like, I forgot the CO2 canister. And so the SodaStream's just freaking sitting on your freaking counter for weeks at a time with no freaking CO2. So there's a company, they do CO2 canisters by mail. They send you full canisters and you put your empties in the box and you mail it back. And it's like the same price as if you went to the grocery store. Just signed up for this. It's going to change my life. Okay. What? UAV Futures also has a SodaStream? SodaStream. Let's do it. I don't like to take sponsorships for my streams from FPV companies. Because if I come up here and I go, this stream brought to you by Fat Shark. Now let's talk about the new Fat Shark goggles. Wow, they're good. There's an obvious conflict of interest there, right? But like, so if SodaStream wants to sponsor me, who cares? There's no conflict of interest there. Okay. So I answer questions. Sometimes I rant about SodaStream. That's what's going on. Is the X-Hover Blastr any good? Asks Samuel Olivares. Let's find out. X-Hover Blastr. What is that, a motor? Is it a flight controller? It's a frame. Well, X-Hover makes good frames, and Air Blastr is a good pilot, and so, you know, it doesn't... Here's the thing. I'm such a hater, because I want to be positive. Be like, oh, isn't that interesting? There's this guy I watch. He's a guitarist, and his name is Tim Pierce. He has a YouTube channel, and he is so positive all the time. He could play him Mary Had a Little Lamb, and he'd be like, oh, I really love that song, and he means it. And it's such a joy to watch him because he's so positive. And I want to be like him. But I'm like, if Tim Pierce were here and he were into quadcopters, he would find something about this to be so positive about. But here's the thing. It's a freaking, you got a bottom plate, okay? You got some arms, you got an X plate, you got a top plate, you got some standoffs. What is there to say about this frame that makes it interesting or unique? And that's just because I'm a hater, because I'm sure it's a good frame. X-Hover makes good stuff. Okay, so it's got 36 and 20 millimeter holes. That's nice. Got 20 millimeter holes in the back, and it looks like it might be a set of 20 millimeter in the front. Maybe not. I can't quite tell. So you got the 20 millimeter in the back is nice. I like this little cutout here. See, I can do it. If I try hard, I'll get positive. I'll find things to like. I like this little cutout here to hold the antenna in place. If you do it that way, I would like a double cutout here so you could have two zip ties to hold the antenna in place. It's a fine frame. The thing is, a frame like this, it really hinges on don't make any stupid mistakes with the design that are going to create weak points. And I think we probably can assume that X-Hover hasn't done that because they design a lot of frames. Piper Pedro in the Discord says it looks like it would make a good cheater quad. I do see your point there, Piper. A cheater quad has a front and a back-facing camera, and this cutout here would be perfect for a back-facing camera. I'm a little concerned about this. Come on now. I'm a little concerned about, look at this right here. This is the weakest thing I see here. Let's zoom in. Zoom. This to me looks like the weak spot. Look at this carbon right here and right here. It feels to me like in a rear impact, this is going to be a real problem for you. This is where you're going to get a stress fracture and it's going to break. That's what I see. But it's an Air Blastr frame. Air Blastr does mountain cruising and stuff, so maybe it's not made as a freestyle basher. Yeah, Papa Doc says it's just not that unique. It looks like 100 other frames. And the thing is, that's not to say that I heard this type of frame referred to as a school bus frame. Basically, it's just big and long like a school bus, and you stuff things into it. I kind of like that. This school bus style of frame, there isn't a lot to do to make it unique or different. You just have to implement it without screwing up and making mistakes. The only thing that jumps out at me is that rear standoff. Looks a little... Yeah. So anyway. What do I think of the Air Blaster frame? Doesn't knock my socks off. It's not terrible either. It's the Joe Biden of frames, says David Spawn. I'm not going there, dude. We're not talking politics. Steel just released a Blastr comic vid tonight. Matt Dewhurst. What? I don't even know what those words mean together in a sentence. Will the Caddx Vista fit in a hyper-low CG if I mount it on top of your flight controller with individual ESCs? Let's look at the hyper-low CG, Benny Fernandez. Hyper-low CG, people were asking, is it a good frame? Hyper-low makes great frames. They are a little more complex and fiddly than some people would like. Like they have a lot of parts. And they're good frames. They're well designed, but some people might like something a little simpler. The question is, will a Caddx Vista go in? Oh my goodness, can I have the picture? Where's the side on? Can I have the side on? Can I have the side on? What does it look like side on? No. What? How am I gonna? Oh, there's so many of the front and the. No, I don't know about that. What size are the standoffs? That's the big question. I mean, you could always use longer standoffs, I suppose. What size are the standoffs? Nope, it doesn't actually say the size of the standoffs. Rafiki says it will fit. I can confirm. Well, if Rafiki says it'll fit, then maybe that's good information. Although, man, it's tight, dude. Do you think a Caddx Vista... I think a Caddx Vista would fit in there, but not on top of a flight controller. I'm skeptical it would fit on top of a flight controller. Zachary S. wants to know, how do you know what 5-inch prop to choose for 2207 2450 kV Emax Eco motors? Zachary, the beauty is that 2207 2450 kV, it's like the vanilla of motors. That motor can run almost any prop you choose to run. So if you go with a low pitch prop, like a 5.1 by 3.8, then it's going to be like efficient and smooth, not too much power, long flight time. If you go with like a 50-51 prop, then it's going to be like really powerful and fast and kill your batteries. So you kind of can choose which prop you like. The right prop for you, Zach, will depend on... Sorry, I should say Zachary. I hate it when people are like, oh, I'm like, hey, I'm Joshua Bardwell. And they're like, hey, Josh, nice to meet you. And I'm like, it's not a big deal, but I did just tell you my name was Joshua. So if you go by Zachary, I'm not going to call you Zach. That's my bad. Zachary, the real question is like what kind of flying you do. I think for freestyle on a 5-inch prop on that motor, a great choice is a prop like the Gemfan 51433. It's not the only great prop out there, but I did just do a review of it, and I've been really loving how durable it is. Of course, for freestyle, the Steel S3 and S4 props are very good. Mr. Steele flies them, and he very, very much focuses on smooth and linear and controllable and precise as opposed to lots of power. If you're going for racing, a lot of racers might choose higher kV motors, but actually I've heard of a trend away from that where racers are actually going for lower kV motors because they realize they were never really using the top end of their throttle anyway on certain types of courses. So 2207 2450 could be just fine for racing, especially if you're not a good enough racer to be full throttle all the time. And you might go for a higher pitch prop like a 5048 or even a 5050 if you don't like your batteries very much. iFlight Zing makes great motors, Mason Galway. 20 minutes into the live stream, and there's a ton of super chats backing up. Let me go ahead and get some super chats out of the way. We will return to the Discord and the regular chats. Anders Martinson in the Discord. Very good to hear you say that, man. Anders Martinson had problems with Jello on his footage. I recommended camera butter to him. Camera butter. Camera butter is not a butter that you smear on your camera. Don't do that. Camera butter is a stick-on ND filter, and I've started using them. The problem with ND filters is that there are some that are like films, like just basically window tint, and they look like crap, but they're cheap. And there are some that are high-end optical glass, but they're super expensive, like $30 a piece, and you will break them. And camera butter kind of sits in the middle. It is good quality optical glass that sticks on with basically like a little gasket. So it sticks on the front of your camera. You don't need any special like 3D printed holder or anything. And they're like $10 a piece. So they're still not cheap, but they do make your footage look really, really good. 507RC points out camera butter is a great solution for the Hero 8. Because the Hero 8, the others that you could just take off the lens cover and stick on an ND filter, but the Hero 8 is the lens cover is built in, so that's kind of annoying. Yeah. So thank you, Anders Martin. He says my footage looks better than ever. I'm glad that worked out for you, man. What? Okay. Okay. Here we go. Not sure says filters block too much light for my liking. Not sure that's the point. ND filters are intended to block light so that you can have more blur, more motion blur. That's the whole point. So if they block too much, instead of using an ND8, get an ND4 or something. All right, let's get some super chats out of the way, shall we? It's just me, Moose. Thank you for 10 Canadian dollars. A Canadian with a name of Moose. I don't want to stereotype Canadians, but that makes a lot of sense. When I think of Canada, I think of well, all the great comedians to come out of Canada, of course. And I think of Mounties and Moose. Thank you, Moose, for 10 Canadian dollars. Moose says, thanks for being you. Fred Armstrong, thanks for $5. Tyros are hard to get out of Banggood. Do you know about another economical kit we could find stateside? Yeah, Fred, I asked, I gave a couple of retailers a heads up before I released my Tyro 119 build series. I said, hey, if you guys want to get them in stock so you have them to sell, that'd be great. And they said there's no margin on the Tyro kits. They said, in fact, what they said was this. Tyro's dealer price on the Tyro kit is higher than Tyro sells at retail other places, if that makes sense to you. In other words, the dealers just can't make money on the Tyro kit. So the only place you can really find the Tyro kit for sale is Banggood. And, of course, once I released the video, they all went out of stock. I don't know if that was... I mean, I don't think it's bragging to say that sometimes when I release a video, stuff goes out of stock. So hopefully they'll get more soon. In the meantime, the Tyro 129 kit, people have been telling me that the 129 and the 119 are the same, but the 129 has longer arms. I haven't verified that, but I do know that the Tyro flight controller and ESC are very similar, if not the same, through all the Tyro builds. If you can't find the 119, I would try the 129 and see if you can get that. Bubby FPV, thanks for $2 in the super chat. Can I use a 5S LiPo on 2650 kV motors? Bubby, I have a video I put up where I use a 6S LiPo on 2650 kV motors, and the quad goes 100 miles an hour. Because if it went faster than that, that would be against the regulations in the United States. So it definitely didn't go 150 miles an hour. That would not be okay. So can you use a 5S LiPo on 2650 kV motors? You can. However, you can fill your car's engine with nitro, whatever it is that they, in the Fast and the Furious, and then you could just blow it up and go fast. But 5S on 2650 kV motors is not a good choice for all around. You're going to have much more likelihood of desyncs, much more likelihood of blowing your ESC. If you don't use a throttle limit, you're going to suck your battery dry in no time. However, you can do it. And if you manage to do it without like blowing something up, it will be very, very exhilarating. Yeah. Cement Kid says, how'd the battery hold up with that quad? Cement Kid, the battery actually did okay because I was not dumb enough to just punch it until it got down to 3.2 volts. I started with it fully charged. I did a couple of pulls. The pulls were real short because at 100 miles an hour, you get from one end of the field to the other real freaking fast. So I wasn't like doing like quarter-mile drag races where I'm just like, wah, because the battery would not like that. The battery held up okay. Justin French, thanks for $10. Very generous donation. Thank you. I got a J. Bardwell F4 flight controller with Race Day Quad ESC for a new build. Decided to switch to Crossfire after too many FreeSky failsafes at 2.4 gigahertz. I got Crossfire Nano RX. How should I wire to your flight controller? Justin French. Justin, you got 3 possibilities here. The JB F4 flight controller has 2 full UARTs broken out. UART 4 and UART 6. So there's TX4 RX4 and TX6 RX6. If you're using the ESC, then UART 4 is probably used for ESC telemetry. So that's out. So you got to use UART 6, and that's where I would put the Crossfire receiver. If you have something else on UART 6, like Smart Audio, you can actually move that to LED strip and use soft serial. You're going to remap LED strip to be soft serial. The third way to do it is you could put the Crossfire on the S-Bus pad. Now you will only Crossfire pin 1 to S-Bus. You will only get you won't get telemetry. You'll only get control, but it will work on the S-Bus pad because the inverter on the JBF4 switches itself on and off based on which receiver protocol. And I'm so looking forward to bringing you guys the JBF7. We are moving forward with that. I have a prototype. I have a couple prototypes. They're being put into quads to test. Final arrangements are being made, like what color they're going to be. And the JBF7 is coming. I'm really looking forward to debuting it because all this BS with UARTs is going to go away. I put so many UARTs on this freaking thing. So... So, Justin, I recommend you use UART 6, and if you're using UART 6 for anything else, use soft serial on the LED strip pad. Justin, if you need more instructions, reach out to me, message me on Facebook, and I'll be glad to help you out. Good point, Marty. Marty Gerdonk. You can connect Smart Audio to the Crossfire Nano and control the VTX through Crossfire. That is true. You can connect a Unify, only a Unified, not a third part, or... maybe a Rush Tank since they're official, but definitely Unifies can connect direct to the receiver. That is true. JB Micro Eagle or the Mr. Steel Runcam Mini 2? Dave's FPV, the JB Micro Eagle is my favorite camera. Obviously, that's why I put my name on it. The problem is the JB Micro Eagle has been discontinued. The sensor that the JB Micro Eagle uses is not used in any other FPV camera, and the purchase quantity was so large that Runcam was like, well, look, you know, the camera is a few years old. It's not selling like it used to, just because people are always looking for new things. The Eagle has its diehard fans, but they said, I don't think we can justify making another purchase of the sensors, so we're going to have to discontinue it. I actually am collaborating with, so I was like, well, okay, what's my next favorite camera going to be? And it's funny because, guys, like, people are like, you should make a frame. And I'm like, I don't want to make a frame. I don't care. Just give me a whatever. Give me that frame. But, like, the camera, I am so picky about my camera that I'm like, I will put my name on this camera. This is mine. So that's, I guess, shows you where my priorities are. I am working with Runcam on a replacement for the Runcam Eagle. It will not be an Eagle. But as of today, I would take the Eagle if you can find it in stock. But between those two, you might have to get the Mr. Steel because the Eagle is discontinued. Continuing the super chats. Continuing with the super chats. Alep FPV, I'm going to get back to your question in the Discord about places to fly. I like that question. Let me get the super chats out of the way. Kumar Kumar Hendricks, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Will my QX7 Access radio with R9M be somehow able to get D8 mode? No, never. Never. Kumar, QX Access, FreeSky Access radios cannot do D8. You have to get an XJT module and put it in the back of the radio. The XJT module can do D8. Access radios cannot, will not. FreeSky could have done it in firmware, but they said they weren't going to for reasons. Foxeer Toothless is a great camera, Mr. Syncopad. I actually like that camera a lot. Cody R says, what about the Phoenix 2? What about the Phoenix 2, Cody R? Whoa, could the Phoenix 2? Could a customized version of the Phoenix 2 be the next version of JB's custom camera? Could it be that that's what I'm working on? Nah, could never happen. McG FPV, thanks for $5 Australian. How do you calculate the point of diminishing return for battery capacity on a quad? The point where additional weight is detrimental to flight time. McG FPV, dude, there is a guy who was chatting me about this. Flip, he had a number. He said it was either 1/3 or 2/3. I think what he told me is, oh man, I wish I could find the chat, but it's in Facebook Messenger and I'll never find it again. Not on short notice. I think what he told me is he'd been crunching some numbers, and basically what he said is that when the battery approaches about 1/3 the weight of the quad, that you're past the point of diminishing returns. At the end of the day, adding more battery weight will give you a little more flight time almost always. It levels off, right? The problem is that the quad will start to fly like crap long before the flight time becomes the thing that limits us. The weight, you could put a 2200 milliamp hour 4S on a 5-inch quad. It will fly. It'll fly longer, but it just won't have enough power, enough thrust to weight ratio to actually like do anything. Just Mike, thanks for $5. Bad FPV, thanks for $5. When I pass half throttle, I get a pulse of full throttle and the receiver light flashes. Please help. Bad FPV, if the receiver light flashes, does that mean you're fail-safing? Right? The pulse of full throttle might be related to a fail-safe problem. So the first thing I would do is I would take my props off, dude. Take your props off. And the second thing I would do is I would test your fail-safe. With your props off, arm the quad, turn the radio off. Do the motors stop, which is what they should do? Or do the motors burst to full throttle, which would tie into your problem that you're having? Because you have a little bit of a cart before the horse problem. Do you get a pulse of full throttle, which causes a fail-safe, or do you get a fail-safe, which causes a pulse of full throttle? Then the other thing you got to figure out is why the receiver light is flashing. Why are you fail-safing? Could it be that you have a loose wire, or something like that? Yeah, that's what I would inspect. Bad FPV, we can work on it a little more. If you want to message me on Facebook, we can dig in. I would definitely check all the wiring going to the receiver. It could be the 5-volt regulator on the flight controller. There's any number of things. But first thing I would do is I would test the failsafe to make sure that your failsafe is working correctly. Redbeard, the pilot, thanks for $5. Where'd we go, Redbeard? Haven't seen much vertical arm design since the Carrera Talon. Are those good for freestyle? The problem with the vertical arm design, Redbeard, for me, is that the way they corner, they kind of carve through the corners, but they're very susceptible to wind. So there actually is just now, there's a TBS, is it the Source 5? I saw it. No, I can't find it. There's a TBS Source frame that is vertical arm. So, I mean, they're still coming out. In general, Redbeard, I don't think vertical arm frames are good for freestyle. I'm not a huge fan of them for racing either. The way they carve through the turns is nice, but also means that they're very susceptible to wind, and I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it, but then I was like, okay, well, now I'm going back to the thing I'm used to. JCM asks, will a 60 amp ESC hurt my battery if it can only put out 38 amps? JC, the ESC rating is a maximum. So if the motor pulls 38 amps on a 60 amp rated ESC, that's good. You want the ESC rating higher than the motor, what the motor will pull. Just Mike, thanks for $10. No question, just support. Thank you. Just want to say thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for $10 donation. That's very generous. Rob J77, thanks for $5. I have a Hawk 5 with a Pagoda antenna, and I can't seem to get more than 300 feet out. I'm on 200 milliwatts. Any help? Rob J, this is a cheap answer for which I apologize, but the Pagoda antennas are very sensitive to the orientation of the plates. Pagodas are great antennas when they are made correctly and not damaged. But as soon as you either manufacture them, like if the distance between the plates is wrong, if the alignment is wrong, or if you crash and then it gets all messed up, the first thing I would do is I would just try a different antenna. And it's a cheap answer because you're going to do that, and that's not going to fix it, and then it's going to be something else. But that is the first thing I would do with a Pagoda antenna, is I would just suspect the Pagoda might be damaged. Freeloho, thank you for $5. Just put a set of your 2208 2400s on a Flywoo Mr. Croc SL5. It's my first 5-inch. Wow, 2208 motors on a 5-inch. Kids these days, what do they get up to? Justin French, thank you for $5. We're almost caught up on the super chats. Oh, there went another one. Justin French, thank you for $5. I accidentally bought Access R9M Slim Plus receivers. My R9 module does ACCST. Can I flash them to be ACCST? Well, if it were 2.4 gigahertz, I think you can flash the R9 receivers back and forth between ACCST and Access, but I'm not 100% sure about that. If we look at the download page, you can see the download page for the R9MM has both Access and ACCST firmware. But I'm not sure 100% that you can flash this to all R9MM. Because some of the R9MM have the OTA firmware functionality and some don't. But we don't see it being broken out. So I think you should be able to flash either of these and you should be okay. I think, but I'm not sure. Ronbo RC in the chat is saying, yes, it will flash back. So that's some confirmation there. Stirk Racing, thanks for $10. I just want to thank you so much for being a great resource through my first build. Thank you very much, man. Thank you, Stirk. MB Edits, thanks for $5. Is the DJI goggle analog mod easy to go back and forth from analog to DJI? Yeah, it's easy to go back and forth. It's just a menu. You just select the AV input in the menu. It's pretty easy. I mean, I fly Fat Shark HDO2s when I fly analog. I am fortunate enough as a reviewer and as a prominent YouTuber to have my pick. If you have the option to fly analog and like HDO2s or Orca for analog and DJI for digital, I would rather fly HDO2s than DJI for analog, even though DJI can do analog. And it's funny because I say I don't want to carry two controllers. That's why I put Crossfire on my DJI quads. But apparently I am willing to carry two goggles. The HDO2s, the OLED screens look so good. And they're so much smaller and lighter. It is nice. But most people would not buy HDO2s and DJI goggles because of the money. It's so much money. Wolfram von Adobschutz, thank you for €10. Hey Joshua, I exchanged the Nazgul 5 VTX with the iFlight 1-watt VTX. The video signal's fine, but the Tramp doesn't save any settings. Wolfram, does the iFlight VTX use the Tramp protocol? The first thing I check anytime I'm having VTX problems with Betaflight 4.1, Wolfram, is go to the video transmitter tab and you need to see device ready yes in the upper right. If you don't see that, it means that your wiring is wrong, your VTX is powered down, or your ports tab is set up incorrect. So that's the first thing. A lot of people say, my VTX table's messed up. And I go, well, hang on. Until you get device ready yes, it doesn't matter. 2 more to go. Razer FPV, thanks for $10. Thanks for all you do. Just picked up an SL5E 4S version. I was wondering what your thoughts on battery recommendations. You picked up 6 CNHL 120C 4S 1500 milliamp hours. That's a great choice. It's a great battery. I have a hard time making a better recommendation, especially at the price. Curious about flight time. Depends entirely on how aggressively you fly. If you just hover and cruise around, you could easily get 5 or 6, maybe even 6 minutes. If you're punching the throttle and doing lots of freestyle and racing, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And finally, Robert Myers, thank you for $5. What happened to Boris B? Is he still with Betaflight? You could just have to check on GitHub and see if he's done any commits. I think he does exist. But is he still contributing? I don't think so. The 3 code results. Commits. Blackman. Yeah. It's probably not his actual username. Well, I don't actually know his username, come to think of it. I don't think he's very active. Last one. Private Island. Thank you for $2 Canadian. Could you say hi to my partner, Debbie? Hello, Debbie. Okay. Okay. I want to go back to this question that came in on the Discord. And I see so many questions going by. I'm sorry I'm missing so many of them, but that's just how it is in a live stream. The question was from... oh, there it was. Question is from Alep FPV in the Discord. Thanks for being a patron, Alep FPV. If you want to join him in the Discord server, you can do that by signing up on my Patreon, the video description below, for as little as $2 a month. Surya Sharma, you want to join the Discord, you got to join my Patreon. It's one of the few things I restrict only to patrons, as little as $2 a month. Link down below. Alep asks, in your opinion, what are the best places to fly that almost everybody would have near them or in their town? I've been thinking about this for a while. In fact, I think I want to make I think it would make more sense as a Rotor Ride episode than as like an episode on my channel. But I've been thinking about okay, so this is going to be very US centric because I don't live in Europe. But every city that you end up in, there are certain places you can go to fly. For example, this is going to sound really bad. Schools, public schools. Okay, now, hear me out. Public schools, they're always empty on the weekend, especially during the summer when no one's there. And they oftentimes have very interesting architecture, some more than others. But a public school will always have a little awning or something for you to fly under. If you just go and look in your area and just look at the high schools, the elementary schools, etc., they're usually pretty decent places to fly. Now, there obviously are some gotchas there, right? You have to do this in a way that is safe, that it won't piss anybody off, that won't get the cops called on you. I'm not saying that you should just go do it. I'm saying you got to solve those problems for yourself. But I am saying lots of cities that I've been in, when the locals take me to go fly, sometimes it's at a school and they're like, nah, it's cool. We know the custodian, we know the principal or whatever. And it's usually pretty good places to fly. The next one is churches. Churches, again, if you live in Europe and there are 500-year-old churches, don't fly your quad near those. Don't crash your quad into an ancient building. But we don't have any of that here in the United States. Churches usually have amazing architecture. They also have amazing stained glass windows. Don't crash into that. And again, some people are going to... this is the reason I haven't made this video yet. Because the minute you say, well, what are good places to fly? Public schools and churches. People are going to be like, you can't do that. That's not safe. That's not responsible. You're ruining the hobby. We were flying at a church. We were flying at a tree area across from a church. This dude walked up. He was like, hey, what are you guys doing? We're like, we're flying. Of course, the first thing you do when a random person walks up is you get a set of goggles and you say, here, check it out. Because you want them to see what, to be impressed. It turns out he's the pastor of the church. And he's just totally cool. He's like, yeah, I'll come here, fly anytime. So, you got to navigate those waters. Parks. Now, parks are Like, the problem is parks are always full of people. Well, if you live in the south of the United States, people tend to be in church on Sunday mornings. So if you want to go fly in a park, it's probably going to be empty Sunday morning. But it's best if you're in a park if you have like spotters to help you watch out for people like dog walkers and stuff. The other thing is, the one place I have been kicked out of, one place where we were just flying at these trees across from this church, and whoever was in charge called the cops and said, "Hey, I want to trespass these guys." And the cops came, and the cops took our licenses and said, "You have to leave, and you can't ever come back, or you're going to be arrested." It's like, okay. I mean, obviously, there's going to be times when you have something, but more often than not, things are pretty positive. Those are the ones for me: parks, churches, shopping centers. If it's a time when it's empty, a parking lot could be good. I don't know. The problem with schools, David Martin Graff, is people get very protective when strangers who don't go to the school are on the school property. So it's really important, like, not to do it while there's like a kid's soccer game going on. Then people will freak out. Office parks on the weekends, Jeremy Sarge. That's true. I have to admit, Jeremy Sarge, that I am super jealous of the folks who live like in Atlanta. Atlanta has so many office parks. They're empty. A lot of times no one gives a damn if you fly there. It's not like there's a security guard driving around to kick you out. And on the flip side, Knoxville just doesn't have that kind of architecture. It just doesn't have it. Quadrophenia says college campuses right now. Yeah. There's a lot of good places to fly if you get it at a time when no one is there, like a holiday, like on Thanksgiving Day, hit the college campus. The nice thing about schools is that they are public property. So although people sometimes get really sensitive about the presence of kids, at the same time, it's not the same as if you were just like, if you're in an office building, they're like, well, this is private property. You can't be here. But like, your taxes pay for that school, man. You got a right to be there. Ciati's in the chat. Ciati lives in Alpharetta, Georgia. Home of, it's freestyle heaven, man. There's so many good places to fly in there. Okay. All right. Good question. Good question. Should I keep my Session 5 or upgrade to a Hero 8 for $200 in trade-in? Asks Sky. That's tough, man. Would I take a Hero 8 for $200? That's a pretty good deal. I mean, do you get insurance with it? That's tough. I hear the Hero 8 looks so good. It does look really good. It's a great camera. It's not going to be as durable. You're going to smash it. You definitely. I'm not sure I would do it without insurance, Sky. I'm not sure. All right. Keep that Session, says Rafiki. Lunchbox says the right parts of the old city in Knoxville are good spots. There are good spots. Yeah, there are good spots in Knoxville. That's true. JD Jeffs asks, what do you look for when choosing an FPV camera? I can watch DVR footage on YouTube, but nothing really stands out to me. JD Jeffs, let me show you some of the things I did while I was tweaking the RunCam Phoenix. What do you look for in an FPV camera? You'll have to forgive me because, like, I haven't organized this footage at all. Why do I not have any thumbnails up for AVI? Something broke my thumbnails. I don't get any thumbnails for AVI files anymore. All right. Like, hang on. So, what I look for in a camera, and by the way, this is onboard DVR. That's why there's no static or anything. What I look for is first shadow and highlight detail. So like if we look in these shadows here, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be seeing this based on what YouTube is doing, but hopefully if I freeze the image, it'll help. I don't want to see dark black shadows with lots of contrast. That looks good as a still image, but as a pilot, I want to see detail in the shadows. And so I adjust the contrast and the brightness so I get detail in the shadows. Like you can see here that there's just a little bit of detail in this shadow. Where you can see on the ground and so forth. And that's really useful when you're flying into shadow specifically. So the first thing I do when I adjust a camera is I adjust for the shadow and the highlights. And that usually results in a more washed out, less contrasty image than the manufacturer shipped with. But I feel like it gives more information to the pilot. So, no, go back. Well, where am I going to go? See, I'm just testing, so I'm not doing anything too exciting. But as we look into the shadows under these trees, if I had a high contrast image, there would just be blackness. Well, it kind of does look like blackness at this exact moment, but as you get closer, it will resolve. The other thing I usually end up doing on modern cameras is turning the sharpening down. Here's a great example of the shadows. So you see we have detail here. We don't see just a black splotch. We can actually see detail in the ground. The other thing I usually do is I turn the sharpening down. They ship with sharpening cranked way up. It makes a super sharpened image that seems like it has a lot of details, but it also has a lot of noise. And so I don't tend to like that. And I'll turn the sharpening down. I may address the saturation and turn the saturation up. I kind of feel like it helps offset the loss of contrast. Here we go. So I want you to see how as I go in here, these shadows start out black, but then they quickly lighten up so you can see detail. So hang on, back up just 5 seconds. So as we come through here, right here, do you see that this shadow is essentially black? But I'll step forward. As we step forward, it's going to lighten up. And likewise here, this shadow is essentially black. And as we step forward, it will lighten up, and I'll be able to see some details. Whereas if the contrast was there, see, now I see it got a lot of details in here, and I can really see what I'm going into. So that's probably the number one thing I do is try and get the shadow detail and the highlight detail correct. I wish I could show you guys how this camera is shipped. Hang on. I bet if I go back to... So this is 001. This is the first file. This is probably how this camera is shipped, and you can compare and kind of see what I did. And what you should see, depending on where that last video was, is a lot more contrasty image with a lot more sharpening and image noise. Hang on, let me skip forward here. So really dark shadows and really contrasty colors. And a lot of, do you see this stair stepping here? Again, I'm not sure how much YouTube is making it apparent, but there's a ton of stair stepping here in this fence. And lots of noise. See this rainbow noise here? So and especially in these tree branches, there's just a ton of rainbow noise. So this is a good looking image for you to look at right now, but nobody looks at the DVR to appreciate how beautiful it is. You use it to fly. You see all the grain and image here and sharpening noise here? Really bad. Really shimmer in the fence. Do not like. And then as we come in here, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so then if we look toward the end, presumably at the end is when I'm done. This is after I've tweaked the camera as best I can. And what you're going to see is, look right here near the fence. Do you see that you can just barely see the tiles? Whereas on the original tune, that would have been just black shadow. Now, everything looks a little washed out, but that's okay. Because we're trying to make a camera that flies good, not a camera that looks good in post. So, there you go. little bit of info about how I tune a camera. And, there you go. Let's see what people have been saying while I've been explaining all that stuff. What about really bright sunny spots being so bright it looks like snow? Asked Crazy Frog. The thing is, man, the camera only has so much dynamic range. Okay? So if you think about the exposure of the camera being like where it sets the midpoint of the luminosity. So if you aim it into the sun, it'll darken up so that, right? But the dynamic range is the difference between the brightest and the darkest thing it can show. And if you've got a scene with very, very dark and very, very bright in the same field of view, the camera has to just pick one. It can't be perfect for all of them. It's one of the reasons why I really liked the Runcam Micro Eagle, because the sensor that they used had really impressive dynamic range, and it could sort of bring all that detail in. What you have to do, Crazy Frog, is pick a camera that has a good exposure algorithm that is going to make the right decision for you. So if you're flying an FPV camera and the sun is in the sky and it goes zoop and darkens down the whole screen just to make the sun be exposed correctly, that's the wrong decision. I would rather have the sky be blown out, because I'm not going to crash into anything in the sky. I would rather have the ground be exposed correctly. There's not really anything you can do most of the time to change that, though. The camera is just going to do what it does. And you just pick another camera if yours doesn't do what you like it to do. Hi, Vincent Dawson. Thanks for saying hi, dude. Today We Built says, is there any reason my 4-in-1 ESC isn't outputting 5 volts? Well, are you sure it has a 5-volt regulator? Because not all of them do. Today We Built, but if it has a 5-volt regulator and it's not outputting 5 volts, it could be that the 5-volt regulator is broken. What does SWC on the JBESC stand for? That's telemetry. SBK ASDFG. That's telemetry. It's ESC telemetry. WTFPV says, what would an air unit need to cost for you to switch over fully? Good question, WTFPV. I mean, I don't think there's any question that DJI is better than analog. I realize that that's going to be a controversial opinion. And when DJI first came out, I probably wouldn't have said that. But DJI has proved that they're sort of here to stay, first of all, that they make a solid product. And number two, I've seen so many people switch to DJI and just, and these, if I were to come, and I'm not saying this, if I were to come out one day and say, I'm switching to DJI, analog is dead to me, people would go, shill. It's just, some people would. But I've seen enough people who are just customers. They don't have a YouTube channel. A lot of them aren't even like rich. I mean, they're probably doing okay if they're buying DJI, but they're not like just throwing money away rich. And they're just normal people who I've flown with for years here in Knoxville, and they bought the DJI and they're like, I'm never going back, dude. It's amazing. And at some point I'm like, okay, that's just a thing. So, I mean, I think it's uncontroversial that DJI is better for most people. Are you a Alex Vanover level racer? DJI is not the right thing for you. Are you a Mr. Steele level freestyle pilot and you demand absolutely consistent? See, here's the thing. Here's the difference between like Steele and Drib. Because Drib will make gold out of any piece of garbage you give him. I've seen Drib pull off amazing flights. I'm like, whoa. And he lands, and I look at his quad, and like the motors are falling off, their bells are all beat up. I'm like, how did you get that out of that? He's like, I don't know. It's the Detroit ethos. You compare that to somebody like Steele. How many times has Steele changed his setup? Ever. He flew the Alien for years, and now he flies the Apex. Steel flies the same setup every time, down to the gram. All of his quads are identical. So when DJI comes along and says, sometimes will be 25 milliseconds, but sometimes will be 35 milliseconds latency, and sometimes maybe even 50, and Steel is like, bye. So if you're that guy, DJI is not for you. But I think for a lot of people, it's just great. So the question is, what price would it have to be at to switch over? Personally, I'll never switch over 100% because I know there's a lot of people out there who fly analog, and I want to make content for them. It's why I started my 3 packs a day on the Stingy build, which is an analog build, and it's why I did my build series on an analog build, because I still think a lot of beginners are going to come in there. I'm not sure, because like if I decided to do it today, it's like it's $160 for an air unit. That's like double. Okay, like if an air unit was $60, why wouldn't you put it in, right? I feel like the actual number is a little higher than that. But if it was $60, you just put them in every quad. Who cares? Okay. Things that Fun wants to know. What are the best output settings to render video from a GoPro in Premiere after you've already used RealSteady, like bitrate, codec, etc.? Things that Fun, I'm still learning. I can tell you what I do, but I know there's guys out there like Johnny FPV. What encoding settings does he use? Why does Johnny's video always look so freaking good, even on YouTube? What's his secret? He's got a secret. I don't know what it is. But what I've found is, number one, if you're uploading 1080 footage, render it in 2.7K, because YouTube does not give enough bit rate to 1080 footage. And by rendering in 2.7K, you force, well, you don't like force it, but YouTube gives it more bit rate. But there's actually only 1080 of actual information there, and it makes the footage look better. That's a tip for you. Render and upload in 2.7K. 507RC is saying, Cyberdrone FPV has my thumbnail fix. What's wrong with my thumbnail? What am I missing here? Let's see. Cyberdrone FPV has my thumbnail fix. Oh, I finally saw it. He's just repeating it again and again and again. All right. VLC thumbnails might not be showing in Windows 10 because Windows settings always show icons, never thumbnails. Okay. Where is that? I appreciate it. Thank you guys for repeating that. Marcelino Romero says Johnny's secret is color grading. That's not true. Johnny, let me be clear. Whoever does Johnny's color grading, whether that's Johnny or whether that's a professional grader, and I don't know which. Whoever does Johnny FPV's color grading is amazing. Johnny is selling a LUT pack for like $100, and I'm like, good for you, man. Make your, but don't think that just you're going to buy Johnny's LUT pack and then you're going to drop it on your footage and it's just going to look like his footage. Sorry. No, I hate to just, burst your bubble. His color grade is great, but you could have a great color grade and you upload to YouTube and it just gets all pixelated and mangled. That's not the final answer. Let's see here. Where's that? Always show icons, never thumbnails, under folder or performance options. File exposure. View File Explorer options. Options. Nope. That's not it. Thank you, though. Let's see here. Copter612 says, can we start a petition for auto start DVR on the Orcas? Copter612, are you sure the Orcas don't have auto start DVR? I think they do. Should we look? Hang on. Alright, so... No, why? Oh, man. The battery isn't dead. Why did they turn off? Hang on. Okay, okay. Now, you guys can't see this, unfortunately, but you'll have to take DVR settings, auto-delete. Does it not? Oh my god, you're right. How does it not have auto-start? Stop. Oh my god. What? Why? No, turn off. Oh, I'm sure I'm the idiot here. Hang on. So now... No, see, we're not in mode 1. Oh, are we in mode 1? Okay, I'm the idiot. We're in mode 1. My bad. Okay, yeah, no, I definitely would like that. Would be a good feature. I mean, I have to... The problem is the power button has 2 modes, and I forgot which mode I had them in. So... Soli says, thanks for the stream, JB. Love the tuning in while I'm building or tinkering in Cura. Keen to see more 3D printing content. Yep, I will be putting BL Touch on my printer this week. Really, this week. I've been putting it off for like 2 weeks because I've been busy with other things. You have to be in the folder you're having the issue with, but why would it only be in that one folder? Okay, hang on. I'm in the folder. No, I'm sorry, man. It's not activated. I want to tell you. Alrighty. Kyle Hansen says, how can I put PID tunes on a Switch? I'm sorry to say, my friend, you cannot. Betaflight will not switch PID profiles when it is armed. The PID controller flies the quad. So if you're flying the quad and then suddenly we switch PID controllers, they don't feel like they can do that safely. So you can only switch PID profiles when you are disarmed. And the way that you do it is with a stick command. There's a Betaflight stick, or in the OSD. You can do it in the OSD, but you can't do it on the Switch. There you go. Let's get a couple more super chats out of the way. Krumta, thank you for $10. GPS and GPS rescue will shrink wrap, cause fewer satellite locks. I doubt it. Like, the RF engineer in me says that technically the plastic will change the tuning of the antenna slightly, but I doubt it. Probably not. No. If you're in GPS rescue and you drop past min sats, would the quad drop out of the sky? Yes, that is exactly what it will do. So, Ramathorn 937, thank you for $5. Is there an all-in-one soldering kit you recommend for newbies to the hobby? TS100 or desk unit first? Let me get your second question. The TS100 could be the only soldering iron you ever buy. I sincerely mean that. If you run the TS100 off a 6S battery, it is super powerful. You can swap out the tips to be heavier or thinner, depending on what you're trying to do. It is surprisingly capable for how small and inexpensive it is. But the ergonomics on the TS100 are not great. It's like really, you're like just really, it's in there. So if you have the budget to have a desk unit, that's nice. A desk unit, let me just show you this. SRA Solder. This is these guys have come on my channel and done interviews with me. Just tutorials, soldering. We just talked about soldering for an hour. And they sell this brand of soldering equipment, Aoye. A-O-Y-U-E, Aoye. If you're in the United States, Aoye is sold all over the world, but SRA Solder sells it in the United States. And they have some kits that I think are very, very good and very economical. So there are Aoye kits down. Like here's a $50 kit with a 60 watt soldering iron. Pretty decent. I would definitely get one of the temperature controlled soldering irons from Aoye. I think the 937 Plus is temperature controlled. Is this one temperature controlled? Is the 469? Is it temperature controlled? That's what I want to know. Temperature controlled soldering iron will have a temperature sensor in it, and it will increase or decrease the output to hold a consistent temperature. If you've got a soldering iron that just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's not temperature controlled. So you definitely want I would want a temperature controlled one, but that kind of kit is worth having and decent price. Why get a desk one when you can bring the TS100 anywhere and use it? Nismo, I find the TS100, the ergonomics are kind of a little not the best. Also, the barrel plug on the back of my TS100 sometimes disconnects. It's loose and it just wiggles around. And sometimes in the middle of soldering, I'll go to solder and the TS100 is off. Whereas a desk unit won't do that. 469, Hero Psycho confirms the 469 is not temperature controlled. I would want a temperature controlled one. Empty My Mag says, I find my Heiko is way better than my TS100 for big stuff. Empty My Mag, I would hold the TS100 on a 6S battery, not on like a 4S. On a 6S battery with the right tip, I'd put the TS100 up against a Heiko 100%. I think it'll hold its own. On a 4S battery, the TS100 struggles a little bit to do big, heavy pads. Whit Coburn says, why do you recommend the iFlight DC-3 on my shopping list, but I haven't done a review on it? I've flown the DC-3. I didn't do a full review on it for reasons. Not because now you're going to think there's something wrong with the DC-3. I wouldn't put it on the website if there was something wrong with it. I just haven't done a review on it. The problem is, and this is true of my Ultimate FPV shopping. Hey, what a great opportunity to mention my Ultimate FPV shopping list over at fpvknowitall.com, where you can find all my product recommendations. That's right. Here's the reason I made this website. Because there are so many products out there, I can't review them all. And I wanted an opportunity to be able to say, this is a good product. You should definitely check it out without having to make a freaking video about it every time. So there's lots of products on here that I haven't done a review of. Like, for example, Hobbywing X-Rotor Micro. You know why this ESC is on here? There's literally one reason it's on here. And I say it right here. Alex Vanover flew this ESC throughout a race season and said it was amazing. And I said to him, you mean you didn't kill any of them? He said, well, I mean, you crash hard enough, you will kill it. But he said this was an amazing ESC and he couldn't believe how durable it was. I was like, okay, good enough for me. It's going on the list. Never reviewed it. I'm not even sure I've ever had one in a quad. That's how it goes. So the iFlight DC-3 is on there because I believe it's a good product and I believe it's worth showing you. That sometimes is based on me having tested or flown it. Sometimes it's based on me having done a full review. And sometimes it's just based on other things. Rockford 007 says, after Netflix, the best thing during quarantine is JB's live show. If you are Netflix and chill during my live stream, I don't need to know about that. If my sultry voice is what gets you going, I don't want to hear about that. How is the TS100 on 19-volt power supply? Alep, it depends on how beefy the power supply is. But generally, higher voltage is better for the TS100. Swisher Surgeon says, my girl loves quad talk. I got to tell you something. I mean, so many people come up to me and they say, my husband listens to you all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to sleep with your voice on in the background. And I'm like, this could get weird any minute now, but it doesn't. It never is weird. But when a random woman I've never met comes up and says, you know, my husband, I fall asleep listening to your voice all the time. And she says, yeah, my husband listens to you while he's working on quads and I hear you in the background. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Oh my goodness, 661 FPV is very concerned about Mark's super chat. Yeah, we're working our way through the super chats. Don't worry. I'll get them all. I just finished up Ramathorns about a soldering kit, and then I went off on some weird tangent. John Daniels, thanks for £5 for all your info. Mark Dibble, thanks for $5. Are we going to see another flying wing on your channel? The next flying wing project that I would love to do would be the what's the one? It's the recruit. Is it the no? Ready-made RC. What's the ready-made RC wing? What's the frickin' wing from them? You know the one. The Nano Goblin? Is it the Goblin? Yeah. The next wing I think would be really fun to do would be a Nano Goblin with iNav on it. So you could do like autonomous flight. I don't have any idea when I would actually get around to that, but I think it would be fun. Thanks Solo FPV for $2. Thanks David Gilson for $5 Canadian. Thanks for all you do. How would I set up an OpenTX sound alert for disarming that doesn't trigger when I boot up the radio? David Gilson, there is a in OpenTX. Shoot. Hang on. I can tell you the answer to that, David. How do you get audio alerts not to trigger when you boot up the radio? Hold on one second. Can I simulate this? Okay, hang on. So, oh, come on. Get an SD card warning even here. Here in the special functions, what do I do like this? Okay, no. How do I make it go over? No, hang on. I'm not used to this simulator. No. How do I scroll? How do I scroll, you flippity? Like that? How do you scroll? Anybody know how you scroll in the frickin' simulator? Anybody? I can only click. All right, fine. Oh my God. All right, well, I was trying to show you guys in the simulator, but I can't get the frickin' scroll to work. There's this thing. Scroll wheel on the dial. Oh, thank you. Oh, wow, Joseph, that's cool. Oh, hallelujah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joseph, for telling me. Great. Scroll wheel on the dial. Well, that's obvious, but yet I never would have thought of it. So if you set up a logical function like so, that will play track. Okay, play track or whatever. Maybe play value. And then, so you got it all set up, right? But you don't want it to play when you first power up. Here in the, you want this. I believe if you set it to not 1x, that means it doesn't play when you first power up. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. Yep, it was Brent Vogelsang. That's right. It's the scroll wheel. I just expected it to be click and drag, which is how most of this interface is. So if you set it to not 1x, let's just double check that. Because we could do not 1x, and we'll find an answer right there. Special functions. Yep. Edge, no. Where's the duration? I think it's duration. It doesn't say anything about the not 1x. Damn. I'm pretty sure it's not 1x that causes it to not happen when you first power up. All right, we're going to go with that. We're going to go with that because I think we spent long enough on this question. Nirud Ravi, thank you for 100 rupees. I'm running bidirectional D-shot on my 2.5 inch. Yaw PIDs are almost zero, but I still get yaw twitches. Anirud, if you run the yaw PID all the way to zero, the quad will not turn on the yaw axis. The twitching is not because of the PIDs. The twitching is because of vibration getting to the gyro. So you want to soft mount your flight, and for some reason the yaw axis is more sensitive, and I don't know why. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to soft mount your flight controller, and then you're going to want to remove any other sources of vibration that could be affecting the flight controller. That's how to get rid of the yaw twitches. If you have messed with the filtering, if you have disabled any of the filters, that could cause this problem. The final thing is to replace the flight controller, because sometimes the gyro is just messed up. And now we are caught up. Anirudh, thanks for 40 more rupees. No tangent is a weird tangent with you. And Whit Coburn, thanks for $2. We're caught up on the super chats. Hallelujah. Squishy7 says, if you do the iNav Nano Goblin, you got to do the 18650 build. 40 minutes of flight time. Squishy, I don't know what I would do with 40 minutes of flight time, but that's kind of cool. Benny Fernandez wants to know, do you think the Caddx Vista overheating is a big issue? Back to the regular old chat. Yeah, well, here's the thing, Benny. It overheats like instantly the minute you turn it on. You have to have it in thermal protection mode, where when it's disarmed, it basically reduces its output power. It's fine when it's in the air. It never overheats in the air, at least not for me. If you have the Caddx Vista inside, like the cavity of a plane where there's no airflow, you could get yourself in trouble. It gets so hot. It gets hot enough to burn you. Like, I've had my quad on the bench. I'm working on it. The Vista is sitting there. And then I go to pick it up or touch it. And literally, I'm just like, ah! Like, literally, it could burn you. I guarantee it's over 140, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. $65 degrees Celsius. I guarantee it's over that, way over that. So it is an issue, but if it's like, the only problem is that when you land, if you crash, it's going to want to overheat and you're going to lose your signal. But when you're flying, it works pretty good. You just have to work around it. Does the DJI Air Unit have the same problem? No, the Air Unit does get hot. It has way more metal and way more thermal mass, so it doesn't get as hot. It doesn't force itself into thermal shutdown either. Maybe if you're at 1200 milliwatts, maybe. But the Air Unit is much more resistant to heat buildup. Lunchbox wants to know, is there any way to do any kind of standalone live audio since DJI doesn't support it? I don't know about that, man. I mean, the thing is, you could just get a video transmitter and not use the video. That would work, but the problem is it can't be a 5 gigahertz transmitter because it's probably going to interfere with the DJI unit if they're on the same quad. So, like, what are you going to do? You're going to get like a 900 megahertz or a 2.4 gigahertz video transmitter, hook a microphone up to it, and just do that? I don't think there's a great solution, to be honest with you. Let's see. Clancy Saunter Kelso says, hey guys, new builder here. I'm using the Racer Star F4S with iBus on a TX port. That sentence is kind of breaking my brain. The Racer Star F4S... iBus doesn't go on a TX port, does it? Am I missing something here, guys? Does iBus work on transmit? If you're doing telemetry, does iBus work on transmit? Folks in the chat who know more about iBus, tell me quick. Can you run iBus on a TX pad? Because I didn't know. I would say I'm like 51% that you can't. But I do know iBus supports telemetry. Oh, he says RX. Okay, phew. Okay, that makes more sense. So we got iBus on the RX pad. I lost the rest of the question. iBus on an RX port. I believe the only RX port So for smart audio, I've read I can soft serial the LED port. Is that the case? Yes, in fact, yeah, you totally can, and that's in fact what I suggest you do. There is a video I made. This video, although it doesn't seem like it's related to what you're talking about, this is actually the video you want, Clancy. This video shows how to remap LED strip to be soft serial, and once it's soft serial, you can then make it into whatever you want. Careful FPV, iBus does, FlySky supports telemetry. I'm pretty sure iBus does support telemetry. Empty My Mag says, we know there's a microphone in the air unit. They need to make it transmit the audio. Yeah, I mean, we know that's true. We know there's a microphone in the air unit, so it seems like it would just be a firmware thing to make them transmit the audio. They haven't done it. For all I know, they could, but I'm not sure if they will. Mr. Shady says, is a high kV motor with fewer windings and thicker wire with a throttle limit less likely to burn out? Whew, that's a tough one. I'm not convinced that single strand, let's examine the assumptions here. Is single strand wire going to have less resistance than multi-strand wire, like fine-stranded wire, twisted? Intuitively, it seems like the answer would be yes. I'm not 100% sure. One reason is that multi-strand wire packs in tighter than single-strand wire. There's less wasted space. So I'm not sure that you wouldn't end up... That's tough. I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. I wanted to acknowledge that question because I've seen you asking it several times. I don't know if I know the answer, but I definitely wanted to acknowledge it. Flea 14 Plus says RSSI not telemetry. That's correct. 661 FPV. But my point is that FlySky and iBus do have telemetry. It does exist. It does exist. What about the Flea 10? I know. Hang on, guys. Here's why I think FlySky has telemetry. There's a page on the Betaflight wiki about FlySky telemetry and how to make it work. So it sure seems like iBus supports telemetry. I'm not crazy here. Okay. Now, I don't know, but there you go. Squishy7 says multi-strand wire is more heat resistant. Yeah. I think that your assumption there that the thicker single strand, sorry guys, OpenTX has just started shouting at me, inactivity alarm from this simulator I was working on like a long time ago. Let me close that down. I think that your assumption that the single strand wire with fewer winds is going to be more heat resistant isn't necessarily true. It'll be shorter in length. So its DC resistance will be lower. But the DC resistance of a motor winding is basically 0. So I don't think it really matters. I think a multi-strand is going to be more efficient or have less loss due to heat. It's just my gut feeling though. I could be wrong. Careful FPV. Skin effect doesn't really matter, I don't think, for AC, for motor PW. First of all, it's PWM drive. It's like 24 to 48 kilohertz. AC skin effect depth. there's a formula for skin effect depth. How is skin depth calculated? You're at like 48 kilohertz. It's not that high. I'm not sure that the skin effect really matters that much. Well, what's the formula for skin effect? 8.5 millimeters at 60 hertz. At high frequencies, the skin depth becomes smaller. What is it? Let's see if we can find a calculator. In copper, the frequency is 48 kilohertz, so 0.48 megahertz, 0.048. Is that right? Calculate. Skin effect depth, 297 micrometers. I don't, is that how, Is that good or bad? I don't think the skin effect matters too much, I don't think. It matters for AC current transmission lines, says Diego Pedro. Well, there's a lot of differences there. Are battery-powered buzzers worth the money, asks JCM. JCM, battery-powered buzzers can save your whole quad. So, I mean, 10, 15 bucks to save your whole quad seems like a good deal to me. Here's what I don't know about the skin depth, because I just pulled up this calculator and I didn't think about what it was actually calculating. Is this depth, what does this number represent? Is that how deep into the wire the current, is that the sort of shell of the wire that the current is flowing through, in which case almost all of the current is on the shell? That's the question. I'm not sure how to interpret that, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that that's right. It flows, yeah. So does that mean that the current is flowing only in the outer 300 micrometers? I'm surprised to hear that, because I've heard people say that skin effect isn't a major factor for quadcopter motors. People who are smart enough that I believe them. Interesting. If that's true, then as Careful FPV says, bigger motor wires aren't that useful. You know what? You know who would know the answer? Ryan Harrell. Ryan Harrell. Ryan Harrell knows more about motors than anybody I know. All right, I've asked him. He may be asleep. It's 9:30 on a weeknight. Probably he's awake, but let's ask him, and we'll see what he says. Okay. All right. What headphones am I using right now, Esperanza Viva? These are the Audio Technica AH60, I think. I think they're the AH60. I can't quite tell. All right. David Martin Graff says, what's the accounting impact of buying an expensive custom-made quad? Does it follow a straight line depreciation schedule? Does it get expensed? Does it appreciate with the add-ons? You have to ask your accountant that question, David. I will say that if you buy an expensive custom-made quad, the depreciation schedule looks like this. And that's where you crashed it. It's no good anymore. Oh, Ryan Harrell is answering our question about skin effect. Hang on, he's typing. We're going to find an answer. See, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I just have to know who to ask to get the right answer. Yeah, well, he says it is not a factor. He says that the switching frequencies we're dealing with, the skin penetration is greater than the diameter of the wire. So he is saying, he's confirming what I thought I remembered, which is that AC skin effect is not a factor for mini quad motors. By the way, for those who don't know, what is AC skin effect? At high frequencies, the current traveling through a wire migrates to the outer shell or the skin of the wire, and the inner copper, whatever it is not carrying any of the current. And that means the effective resistance of the wire goes up, because you could have a big, thick, honking wire, but if you run a high-frequency signal on that wire, only a small amount of copper is actually carrying that current. So we're debating whether skin effect comes into play for mini quad motors. Mr. Shady, please repeat your original question. Yeah, that's a good question. Mr. Shady, can you repeat your original question for me? We'll ask him that too. Shyam says, is it better to get the F745 with 1 meg of program memory instead of the F722? Would that become an issue soon? Shyam, I do think that memory space is becoming an issue. You're seeing some people going to the H7. I don't know if I would decide right now which flight controller to get based on the memory. I haven't heard anybody suggest that you should do that, but it will become an issue before too long. We're still looking for Mr. Shady's original question. Is a high... Okay, let me copy paste this. Okay, hang on. Is a high kV motor with fewer windings and thicker wire with a throttle limit less likely to burn out? That's the question Ryan Harrell is. We're hitting him up on... We'll have to thank him with a super chat. He's gives a super chat. 661 FPV, skin effect comes into play based on frequency, I think, not voltage, right? Anders Martinson wants to know how the H7 on my Stingy build is going. Anders, I killed the T-Motor F55 ESC by accidentally wiring the 10 volt and the VBAT wires together. The T-Motor ESC died, okay? The SP Racing H7 is not made for use with individual ESCs. It's made for use with a 4-in-1. And I didn't have any 4-in-1 ESCs. So I actually don't have the H7 on my Stingy anymore. I put individual ESCs on it because that was just what I had. And I replaced the flight controller with an all-in-one because it was the easiest way to... I just needed to fly the damn quad. So I can't speak to that, I'm afraid, Anders. Still waiting for an answer on this question about the stranded wires. While we're waiting for an answer, let me get a couple super chats out of the way. Joshua Owen, thanks for $5. The DJI F7 Kakute with bidirectional D-Shot. D-Shot 300, 4K, 4K. D-Shot 600, 8K, 8K is at 60% CPU utilization on the bench. Is that too much? To me, that's too much. However... so the rule of thumb is that you shouldn't go above about 50% CPU utilization on the bench. If you are above about 50%, you want to bring down the gyro and PID rate. But F7 should be able to do 8K, 8K D-Shot 600 without a problem. So I probably would go for it. But I'm not sure why you're reading that high on the bench. He's still answering. He's still answering the question. It's a long answer, so... we'll have to give him a chance to get there. Ed Ricker, thanks for $10. No question, just stopping by to thank you. Thank you, Ed Ricker, for $10. That's a very generous donation. Daniel Cole, thanks for $5. Can't wait for the Rotor Riot DIY Cinewhoop to come back in stock. Yeah, everybody is out of stock of everything. Stupid coronavirus. Shinuza-san, did you check the Heliox review of the G-Tech A20M? She got amazing results compared to what you talked about a few streams ago. Shinuza-san, it's always tough to know what to make of these reviews. I don't know what Shinuza-san's situation is. I could have just gotten a bad printer, right? Maybe I just got unlucky and I got a broken printer. I can only report the experience that I've had with it, and I know that I'm a noob at 3D printing. So if I get a printer and I have a bad experience, I don't just go, well, I'm giving it a shit review. No. the first thing I did when I had trouble with this printer is I handed it off to my friend. His name is Jeff Simpson. He lives here in Knoxville, and he's been doing 3D printing for years. I lean on him. I thank him so much for his help. And I literally said, Jeff, it was just as we were going into the whole quarantine thing. I said, look, Jeff, I'm going to put the printer on my porch. I'm going to go back in the house. You come by, you get the printer. I don't know, do whatever you got to do with Lysol. Take the printer. Tell me what you think of it. He took it, and he's had it at his house for the last month and a half. He's been just playing with it and messing with it and giving me feedback on it. And the short version is that dual extruder, the Y-shaped hot end, just introduces all these problems. I don't doubt that you can get good results from it, but our conclusion, and by our conclusion, I mean his conclusion, because he's way smarter than me about 3D printing, and I would never make this conclusion on my own, but it seems like it's kind of like a solution that makes more problems than it solves. If you want to print dual filament, you need dual hot ends and dual nozzles. Trying to do this is it's just not a good. I mean, I don't doubt that Heliox got a great results from the G-Tech A20M. The question is, how hard did Heliox have to work to get the great results? And what were the downsides of the printer that Heliox thought were not worth mentioning, perhaps? Because, I don't know, maybe she's an expert. I don't even know who this person is. I'll go check her out. She's an expert at 3D printing, so she's like, oh, well, we just have to do this and that and this and that. And I'm a noob, and I go, this is a big pain in the ass. This is dumb. And that's the review I'm going to give, is my experience with it. Okay. The question that we are trying to get answered is a high kV motor with fewer windings and thicker wire with a throttle limit less likely to burn out? Let's think that one through. The kV controls how many RPM the motor makes when you put a voltage across it. So going to fewer windings results in a higher kV, which means the motor tries to spin faster. But because there are fewer windings, you can have thicker wire to take up the same volume. And that means the wire is thicker, so it has less resistance and more heat carrying capacity, perhaps. That's the theory. And then since we've got higher RPM, we're just going to use a throttle limit to bring the RPM back down where we want. Well, by that theory, should we all just be using a single big honkin' winding and end up with a 50,000 kV motor at a throttle limit? Clearly not. Ryan says, I saw a... No, hang on. He says, so the trick with the higher kV motor... Let me actually put this on screen so you guys can read it. I don't just have to really read it to you. Okay. Here's what he says. So the trick with the higher kV motor is that the transitional current spikes will be higher thanks to the higher torque constant. Even though resistance may be lower due to the thicker wire and the shorter length of wire, the current spikes will be higher, especially if you get a fully blocked motor. At that point, the torque constant is dramatically working against you. So in normal operation, maybe, but the torque constant is a big risk to play with. Oh, he says also on the skin effect thing, don't confuse the PWM rate to the FETs with the switching frequency of the phases. That's a very good point. Skin effect only cares about alternating frequency, so the commutation rate is what you need to use, not the FET PWM rate. That's a good point. The PWM rate turns to... Interesting. Electrical RPMs is what you want to use, RPMs times poles. Aha. That's the reason skin effect doesn't matter, is because we're driving the FET with a 48K PWM signal, but that actually is not what matters when it comes to skin effect through the motor. It's RPMs times poles. Interesting. See, I told you he was a smart guy. Told you he was a smart guy. I hope that made sense to you. I'm going to say thank you. Okay. Isn't frequency a function of RPM? That is true, Colio. That's what he's saying. It's RPMs times poles, so it would be 30,000 RPM times 14 poles for a typical, full throttle. 30,000 times 14 poles, 420,000. So it's 420,000 hertz. Not, yeah. Is that right? RPMs times poles? Okay. Alrighty. Josiah says ND4 or ND16. ND8 is sold out. I'd probably go ND4, Josiah. I'd usually rather have a little bit less blur than a little bit too much blur. And that sounds sounds like the opposite. Like, wouldn't you want more motion blur? But my experience, when there's too much motion blur, it just gets unwatchable. Whereas if there's not enough motion blur, maybe there's a little bit of jello, but it's still okay. Divide by 60. So it's 420,000 RPM. He said RPM. Oh, but we need to convert to seconds. Thank you. I shouldn't do math on a live stream. I really envy Electroboom, who's an engineer. He doesn't do math on live streams. He records it beforehand, so he probably practices. 30,000 RPM times 14 poles divided by 60 is 7 kilohertz. That's the answer. It's only 7 kilohertz is our actual commutation frequency, and that's why skin effect doesn't matter. Bingo. Thank you. Ethan Mitchell, you're correct. You can actually add motion blur in post. If you have Adobe After Effects, there is an effect called Pixel Motion Blur, and it basically emulates an ND filter in post. When set up right, it can just look exactly like an ND filter and look really good. If you don't have an ND filter, but you have a lot of jello, try using Picture Motion Blur if you have After Effects or some other tool that can do it. Coelho FPV, thanks for $5. Joshua Owen, we got your question. We're caught up on Super Chats. Andre Martinez wants to know why Vanover runs Betaflight 4.05 rather than 4.1. Andre, I can't speak to Vanover specifically, but I can tell you that racers that I know, when they find something that works, they're very hesitant to switch to something newer and better, especially in the middle of a season. If they're in the middle of a season and they switch, just the way their quad flies changes, and at the highest levels, they don't want anything to change. So I think Vanover switched to 4.1. I thought he switched to 4.1 last year because I remember telling him about RPM filtering, and he tried it and he was like, this is great. He can't have used RPM filtering if he wasn't on 4.1. But I would imagine that you'll see a lot of racers stay on older versions longer because that's what's working for them, and it's consistent. A lot of people do use 357 because a lot of people still don't like some of the changes made in 4.0 and 4.1, and they feel that 357 maybe it doesn't fly better, but it's easier to tune. Agilis in the Discord says, JB, please help. I replaced my ESC on my 5-inch 6S build. Now, every time I raise the throttle, it flies to the moon and spins. The motors are going the right direction. Nope, they're not. The motors are not going the right direction, my friend. I hate to be so smugly confident, but if when you raise the throttle, it flies to the moon and spins, most likely you have the motors props out, but Betaflight is set to props in, or vice versa. That is almost 100. It's like almost 100% the answer. Let me put that in the Discord for him, so in case he misses the live stream. There we go. Oh, AGU is right there in the regular chat too. It is 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I've always wanted to say that because I always wanted to be a radio announcer. It's 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Ciati is going to be streaming at 10 o'clock on his channel. He always follows after me. I guess I lead into him, huh? Ciati's going to be here. And, he's not going to be here. He's going to be there on his channel. But he is going to start posting the link to his channel and his live stream in the chat pretty soon. He's been quiet, but I bet he's out there. I bet he's going to pop up now. What batteries was I using on the 3 packs a day video with the Tyro? Davies Biker, there he is. I was using the Race Day Quads 1500 milliamp hour 4S. I would say for a beginner starting with the Tyro 119, even though it's only 1750 kV motors, a 4S is a fine choice. You're not going to get a ton of power, but as a beginner, you probably don't want that. You can move up to a 5S or even a 6S if you like and get more power, but I thought it flew pretty decent on 4S, especially if you're a beginner, you don't need that extra power. So that's what I was running. Folks are talking about 4S versus 6S. Rafiki wants to know. Rafiki, I run 4S, and the short version is that 6S is better, but it's not that much better. People telling you 6S is night and day to 4S, most of them are using 1250 milliamp hour 6S batteries, and that is just a bigger battery with more power, more watt hours than a typical 4S. When you control for watt hours, the performance difference is there, but it is small. And for top freestyle pilots or top racers who need all the performance they can get, 6S is a great choice. But for a typical person, the problem is that 6S is more likely to pop ESCs, and it's just more likely to damage stuff that's not really up to it. If you got an ESC that's rated for 6S, but you're running 4S, there's more headroom there. So I run 4S. The batteries are cheaper. The equipment doesn't pop as much. Yeah. Jay Seahorn, did I miss your super chat? Let's see. I don't think I missed a super chat. Let's see. Did you get a Zach Kegley super chat? Did I? Oh, look at that. Well, somehow I always manage to miss a super chat. Sorry about that, dude. Zach Kegley, thank you for $10. A $10 super chat too. Wow. Terrible at this game. I need a producer to keep an eye on my super chats for me. Zach Kegley, thank you for $10. I'm loving your 3 packs a day videos. I wanted to bump the question I sent in Discord. I need new goggles. I'm mostly set on the Orca, but I'm up for the latest info from the know-it-all. Zach, I think if you are shopping for Orca or HDO, then you're in a price range where you have to at least think about whether you should get DJI. I say that even though there are people out there right now who are pushing their shill like wolves howling at the moon. I mentioned the word DJI and the shill wolves come out. If you're going to spend $500-$600 on your goggles, well, then you got to at least ask yourself whether they should be DJI. If you're committed to analog, then yeah, Orca is a good choice. HDO 2, there are various reasons to go for one or the other. I don't know about anything like new that's coming out that's going to change your mind. I can tell you, actually, that's not true. Bitefrost, Fat Shark is supposed to be releasing a Bitefrost module for HDO 2 that goes inside the goggles. That's a pretty big freaking deal. Orca has been teasing some kind of digital something or other forever, but they haven't actually told us what that might be. So, and I guess the question is, are you going analog or are you going digital? Because if you're going digital, there's like Fat Shark Bitefrost going to be here soon. Maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe it won't. I hope it's awesome. But like DJI is just here right now. But the problem is DJI is so expensive. $160, $180, whatever it is to put the air unit on your quads. It's a lot of freaking money. All right. Zach, got you. Anthony Short, $5. Contribution for the iNav series. Now I am, in fact, caught up on my super chats. We got 5 more minutes to go in the stream. 5 more minutes to go in the stream. Then Aaron Ciotti is going to be taking over. For you guys who are stuck in your houses and can't go out, you're just watching live streaming all day. You know what? Can I tell you, I have been so gratified to watch all the late night talk show hosts start streaming from their house. Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, whoever else. What's his name? The dude? I don't know. All these guys are streaming from their house. I'm like, welcome to the club, you guys. Welcome to the club. It's not as easy as it looks, is it? Uh-huh. Anyway. John Oliver, there you go. That's right. Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is the one I was trying to think of, Dante. Yep, everybody's streaming from their house. Hero Psycho, I don't know the answer to that, dude. Why do higher PWM settings cause voltage sags on toothpicks? Especially Hero Psycho, because higher PWM frequency seems to be more efficient, right? It gives you longer flight time by significantly more. So why then would it cause more voltage sag? Shouldn't it cause less? Jay Seahorn's trying to get a question through. Any info about the Cadix Nebula? The only thing I've heard about the Cadix Nebula, Jay Seahorn, is that it's a Cadix Vista with a microcam on it. But isn't it already a microcam? I don't know. So I guess the answer is I don't know anything. Did you get a tiny trainer from before they sold out? I did not. But I'm pretty sure that if I asked Evan, I'm sure, like, Evan lives in Maryville, 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from my house. I'm not sure exactly. It depends on where in Maryville he is. He could be a little further. I'm sure if I wanted to, we could fly one. What's the point of the tiny trainer? It's like, it's a little quad, but it's supposed to fly like a racer, but the racer is like 1.5 kilograms. So is it just a novelty item? I kind of don't get it. I don't get a lot of things, though. Hero Psycho, Ryan Harold probably would know. But the stream is almost over, so I'm not going to do it right this minute. Philip Radilek says the Vista Air Unit cam is 20 millimeters, so not exactly micro. I heard it was just a Vista with a smaller camera. I don't know if that's true. That's what I heard. Jay Seahorn says the Knoxville FPV Racing is going to do a spec class race for the tiny trainer. That's cool. I'm a big fan of spec class racing. I like a style of racing that focuses exclusively on pilot skill, which is what spec class is designed to do. I'm a big fan of spec class racing. Is there any fix for my Fat Shark HD3 DVR? Yes. Polylie FPV. Just email support@fatshark.com and they will sort you out. That is the fix. Folks, we're 2 minutes away from the end of this stream. And then I hope you'll click over to Aaron Ciotti's stream. Ciotti is a good dude. He does he's learned the secret to YouTube success, which is to do giveaways. I don't do giveaways on my live streams mostly. Oh, well. He's doing 4 giveaways and 20 questions. Happy 420. That's very clever, Ciotti. It's 420. It is in fact 420 2020. So if you are in the kind of person who does that kind of thing, then good for you. What a good day it probably was for you. Anyway, that's it, guys. We are finished. Thank you guys so much for coming out. See you guys the next Sunday. I do my live stream Sunday at 1 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m. Hope to see you there. Got a lot of great content queued up for you this week. I'll be working this week on my iNav tutorial for my Tyro 119. That should be posting next week. This week, what's on deck? Let's just real quick look at that before I get out of the way and let Ciotti take over. MKME Lab, thanks for turning out, dude. I didn't see you. Tomorrow, a review of the Diatone Falco X GTB 339. Wednesday, I'll be putting a Sovol I'll be putting a BL Touch sensor on my Sovol 3D printer. We'll see how that goes. And then on Thursday, you'll get to watch me use Fusion 360 to model something badly. And then on Friday, we're going to revisit the question, why quadcopter pilots never pitch forward. So, yeah, okay. There we go, guys. Ryan Lewis, you just joined. The DVR will be up soon. It's 10 o'clock, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out. If I didn't get to your question in the chat, and let's face it, live streams are crazy. If I didn't get to your question in the chat, message me on Facebook, send me an email. I'll do my best to help you out. I always do. That's going to do it. Ciotti, There's that link. Everybody head on over to SodaStream and say hello to him. Happy flying, everybody. See you next week.